Next up in our Big 12 preview is the UCF Knights. Now, Dalton, they did have a losing season, and their first one in 7 years, actually. But I will say, they were the only one of the 4 new Big 12 schools last year to actually make a bowl game. So, really, it was still an okay year for UCF going into the Big 12. If they want to get back to their winning ways, it'll probably be because of an elite run game that we'll talk about in just a second. But they have some question marks defensively to answer. But really, Dalton, this offense and this entire team is going to be based around this elite run game that the Knights could have in 2024.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what you see is Gus Malzahn building this the same way he always has going back to his days at Auburn, right? He's got all sorts of looks and motions and triple option. It's modern triple option football is really what it is. Since the days of Cam Newton, he's been doing this, and it's still working, right? There's a clear blueprint. Now, we've talked before about R.J. Harvey, who's one of the 10 best backs in the country. Lightning, absolute lightning in space, a great player to have when you're talking about getting to the outside and making big runs. You bring in Penny Boone from Toledo, he's the thunder part of it, right? When you talk about between the tackles, just that max style of running between the tackles. He had a huge year last year. And I think maybe the most interesting part, John Rice Plumlee had a really good year for them last year. He was a lightning runner. I think he had somewhere around 1,000 yards rushing, made some nice throws. He's gone. Now you bring in KJ Jefferson from Arkansas, who, look, Arkansas in general struggled last year, and I'll get more into Jefferson, but the previous 2 years, he was one of the 15 to 20 best quarterbacks in the country. So you got another three-headed monster. It feels like I've been saying this for every Big 12 team, but UCF has a dynamite run game and a dynamite coach to use these guys. It is built in Gus Malzahn's image, and if you slack off in run defense against the Knights, you're going to have a serious problem.
They have the second best running back unit in the country, in my opinion, only behind Ohio State, which is obviously with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, going to be number one. But Harvey and Penny Boone, Dalton, the stat that I love, last year they were 2 of the 10 leading rushers in the country. No other school has 2 in the top 30 of that. So they are loaded at running back. And then also you mentioned KJ Jefferson, 2,280 rushing yards over the last 3 years. Second among Power 5 quarterbacks. The only one who has more is Jaden freaking Daniels, right? So KJ Jefferson, a really, really good runner as well. Other side of the ball is the weakness right now with that front seven. Really struggled in that front seven. They were 82nd in the country in terms of front seven grade last year. They also lost 4 of the 9 D tackles, edge defenders, and linebackers that played at least 300 snaps for them as well. So 4 of the 9 front seven players that really played for them last year are gone. And none of the guys they added in the transfer portal earned 60-plus grades in 2023 either. So that front seven for UCF is still a little bit of a question mark as of right now. But Dalton, tell me more about KJ Jefferson, who kind of came off a disappointing year, I would say, last year. Arkansas as a whole was kind of a disaster last year, and KJ Jefferson was worse off for it. But, the 2 years before, like you said, he was really, really good. What should we know about KJ Jefferson going over from Arkansas over to UCF now?
I think you're playing with Jefferson the game of if we've seen him do it before, he can do it again, right? And across 2021 and 2022, a 91.4 overall grade. Max, that was the 11th best in college football in that span. This was legitimately one of the best dual threat guys. He's a big dude who can run people over. He's got a good knowledge of the option game and everything Gus Malzahn wants to do. And he's got enough arm to make the vertical throws that Malzahn is going to want to make. They don't run a whole lot of nuanced route concepts, right? They run a lot of play action, a lot of RPO, and a lot of just getting down the field to get safeties off of our front, right? And Jefferson can do all of those things. Look, and I think the big thing that happened to Arkansas last year is the pass protection for the first time in a long time, because they usually have a good offensive line. It broke down, right? They just did not have the pass protection last season. And Jefferson, the one thing with him is he's a guy who likes to hold the ball for a while and wait for things to get going downfield. But I think as far as his skill set and what we've seen him do previously at Arkansas, he's a perfect fit for this offense, man. You've got KJ Jefferson, who's 250 pounds, with R.J. Harvey and Penny Boone in this backfield. The only thing I worry about in this situation is finding somebody downfield to replace Javon Baker, who was a spectacular deep threat for him last year. Big reason they had success. If they find that guy and Jefferson has enough time to work it downfield, especially off play action, I think it's a great, great fit.
I agree, man. I like what they have. One guy who I like they brought in from the portal is Jacoby Jones from Ohio. I think he could be a guy that figures into that receiving core a little bit, but that is the question mark is how will this passing game look? 'Cause, I mean, the run game is going to be elite. And there's one play, Dalton, I wanted to shout out from KJ Jefferson I love. You mentioned he's 250 pounds. I believe it was like a cornerback blitz that somebody ran one time, and he had a free run at KJ. KJ didn't even see him. He like barreled into KJ, like a huge hit that usually would knock out any other quarterback. And KJ like barely moved and kind of just like shrugged him off and then threw a ball downfield. It was like, dude, this guy is a tank, man. So I'm a big fan of KJ Jefferson. I think he could have a bounce back year, especially with this run game to rely on too. And the big reason for that is RJ Harvey coming back. One of our 10 best running backs in college football, was 6th among all running backs in the country last year with 1,417 rushing yards. He is a home run threat every single time he touches the football. 17 carries that went for at least 20 yards last year. The only running back in the nation who had more than that was Ollie Gordon, who led the nation in rushing yards and is the number 1 running back in the country as well. So RJ Harvey is a smaller running back. He's only 5'8", 195 pounds, but he's got a low center of gravity, man. 74 forced missed tackles, which were tied for the 6th most in the country. I'm a big fan of him, and like I said, he's a 6-year player. He's one of the 10 best running backs that we have in college football right now.
Yeah, and look, the foundation of this team is going to be the running game, and we've talked a lot in this Big 12 about teams needing to stop the run. I think those two things are going to be the foundation for UCF here, and one guy that's going to be the foundation of that on defense is a big nose tackle. How about Lee Hunter, all right? 39 run D stops last year was the most in the country by an interior lineman. You're just not getting by him. This dude is 6'4", he's 320, he's pretty athletic, and I'll tell you what, he might not be the best pass rusher in the world, but if you were starting a team and going, look, I want to run and I want to stop the run, Lee Hunter's a really good guy to have in the middle as they fill in everything around him. So, I think that's going to be the foundation is guys like that, and just they got to be more rugged on defense, right? If you're going to play the run and stop the run game and ball control game, cool. You know what? Force them to go over the top on you in their very few opportunities, because UCF is a team, they're going to be looking to try to, lead the conference in time of possession, right? And win the turnover battle and just kind of control the game in a different sense than some other teams will want to do it. But Hunter is a guy you would make the foundation of that in your front 7 to run and stop the run.
Dude, absolutely. Especially in the Big 12, too. You better be able to stop the run in the Big 12. With the amount of teams that can run the ball. And you mentioned, man, 39 run D stops. That's 10 more than the next closest D tackle in the country. 18 tackles for loss or no gain were also 3 more than the next closest, too. So, pretty solid pass rusher. I think he was 6th in the Big 12 in pressures, but you mentioned that run D is really why he made the spotlight of this list. Don, I am actually interested to see what you think about this UCF, team that we're talking about right now. Do you think they can surprise some people? I think this is another team like West Virginia that can is kind of a sleeper in the conference right now. Maybe could shock a lot of people next year. What are you expecting out of UCF in their 2nd year as a Power 5 school?
I think a good year. Now, I don't think they're as dangerous maybe as a West Virginia. I'd have them a little below that. But when I think about the 8 or 9 teams that you could talk me into contending in this conference, I think UCF is in that group, right? And it's mostly because of their offense, because of the run game. They're kind of that team. They're not in the inner circle, but they're kind of that team where it's like, oh, any given Saturday or whatever night they're playing that week, right? Where it's like you're going to have a problem if you're not fitting this up right. And Gus Malzahn's calling plays and he's getting all his stuff like he has for 15 plus years. You're going to have an issue stopping these 3 guys in the backfield, right? Even if you're, and I don't know if Arizona plays them or I forget their exact schedule, but whoever's playing them, that we talk about great running games in the Big 10 or in the Big 12, sorry, this is one of them. And if you come in here going, even to be honest, out of conference, man, they're playing the Florida Gators. They've got every bit of a chance to win that game. If Florida comes out lax on defense, this UCF team, I think the best way I could put it, they get ahead of you, you got a real problem.
Yeah.
If you get in this ball control game and you get down 10 points early, you have a serious, serious problem because Harvey, Boone, and Jefferson, for as much as that sounds like a law firm, it's actually a backfield that's coming in here to kill you.
It absolutely is, man. They actually do play Arizona in November. They play West Virginia, and they play UCF. They play Iowa State. They play Florida, Colorado. It's a decently hard schedule, but I do think there's 7 or 8 wins in that schedule for for UCF. It's actually, according to our power rank, is the easiest schedule in the Big 12. I don't know if I agree with that, considering how many difficult teams, like I just mentioned, they play. But I think there's a 7 or 8 win season in there for the UCF Knights next year. I really do like what they have in that run game, man. I think that run game is elite. And I think Jefferson, if he could bounce back as a passer, and if they could fix some defensive issues in the front 7, yeah, they could surprise some teams in the Big 12 next year. This is not an easy out by any stretch of the imagination next year. I think this is a really interesting team that could surprise a lot of people. Dalton, I don't know if saying they could surprise people is the right way to put it. They have the 4th best odds to win the conference next year. I don't know if I see that. I don't. It's tough. I don't know about four.
I get the logic. I get the logic though. Like when you're this explosive, if they find just somebody, maybe not quite as good, but somebody to replace Javon Baker and that vertical threat, this is a real problem because Gus Malzahn has this offense exactly how he wants it. Right? It's that thing to me where I'm just like, they are a serious issue schematically for a team having to prepare for them. They're one of these teams in this conference where, a coach wakes up on a Sunday and go, who are we playing this week? UCF. Oh, damn it. It's just not a fun team to want to play with all the different looks and the talent in the backfield. And look, KJ Jefferson is probably gotten forgotten about a little bit here with the struggles at Arkansas and the entire program had at Arkansas last year. I'm not going to sit here and say this is just Arkansas falling apart last year. That was not KJ's fault, man. It just wasn't. The entire operation fell apart last year, especially on the offensive line. KJ's a real bounce-back candidate for this team.
Yeah, absolutely is. And they're actually tied for 3rd in odds with Oklahoma State. They're both plus 850 right now. So I don't know about that, but I do like UCF a lot, and I think they could be, again, I can't even call them a sleeper anymore, but I think they could be a team that's really fun to watch in the Big 12 heading into next year. But that's what we got for our preview of the UCF Knights. Hey, thanks for watching the PFF College Football Show. Before I let you go, though, we have an unbelievable deal for you guys right now. If you use the code CFB25, you get 25% off your PFF Plus annual subscription. We've got the 2024 College Football Preview Guide that you can find over at pff.com, featuring the best players in the country from all 70 Power 5 teams, plus 10 Group of 5 teams that have the best chance at making the college football playoff as well. You can also gain access to NCAA premium stats for historical games, teams, and player tracking dating all the way back to 2014, so the last decade or so of college football. All the stats you can hope for, you can find in PFF Premium as well. Also, you can be the GM of your favorite NFL team with our unbelievable mock draft simulator where you can draft up to 7 rounds of players for your NFL team. And if you want to dominate your fantasy league, you can do that as well using the best fantasy tools on the planet. All of that and more with your PFF Plus annual subscription, which you can find for 25% off right now with the code you can find in the description. Or if you want to go to subscribe.pff.com and use the code CFB25 at checkout. Again, you get 25% off your PFF Plus subscription. This won't last forever, so make sure you take advantage of it right now.